Tonight, after the sun finally slips away, you'll casually hit a switch. Light will instantly pour across the room, and you probably won't even notice it. Yet, for almost the entirety of human existence, nothing like that switch existed. Once daylight vanished, the earth was consumed by darkness. People often couldn't even see their own fingers in front of their face. Modern society almost never experiences anything like this. For over 300,000 years, all of your ancestors spent nearly half their lives surrounded by overwhelming darkness. For most of that time, candles didn't even exist. There was only the night sky, distant stars, and whatever fire they managed to protect. So how did humans actually spend those long nighttime hours? The answer completely changes our understanding of sleep, storytelling, and even human identity itself. Everything begins with fire, because without fire, none of this could have happened. The oldest reliable evidence of controlled fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, dating back nearly 1,000,000 years. But fire wasn't important only because it gave warmth. It radically altered the structure of human life. Before mastering fire, our ancestors lived much like other primates. After sunset, you climbed somewhere safe or hid in shelter and stayed completely still. Traveling through the night meant risking death. Human eyesight performs terribly in darkness compared to nighttime predators. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, all of them dominated the dark with ease. Fire completely overturned that reality. Literally overnight. A campfire creates a safe perimeter around 30 feet wide. Predators rarely enter that protected zone. Step beyond it, and survival becomes unlikely. That's not dramatic exaggeration. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer tribes today have observed that people leaving the fire after dark face a far greater chance of being killed by predators, even now. But the truly interesting part comes next. Fire didn't only shield humans from danger at night. It gave humanity something entirely unprecedented: additional waking hours. Think carefully about that. Before fire, usefulness ended with sunset. In summer, that meant around 12 hours. And in winter, sometimes only 8. Fire suddenly extended the usable day by another 2 to 4 hours. Across thousands of generations, those extra hours slowly transformed our species. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published research in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. She spent years listening to conversations among the Ju-Hoansi Bushmen in the Kalahari Desert, one of the few remaining groups living remotely similar to ancient humans. What she uncovered was remarkable. During daytime hours, nearly 80% of conversations centered around practical concerns: who will hunt, which plants are ready to collect, food gathering, planning, trade discussions. Daylight conversations focused on survival. But once people gathered around the fire at night, everything shifted. Around the fire, about 81% of conversations became stories. Stories about distant tribes and unfamiliar lands, tales of danger and adventure, myths explaining where the world came from, jokes that made the entire group laugh together. Wiesner argued that human culture was born in these fireside conversations. The campfire became humanity's first stage, the first schoolhouse, and the first sacred space. It was there that humans learned to think beyond immediate survival and imagine things that did not yet exist. That was where humanity truly became human. But storytelling wasn't the only thing happening at night. Another process was unfolding too, one scientists only rediscovered recently. Humans were never designed to sleep the way modern people do. In 2001, historian Roger Akers released research that changed sleep science forever. He spent 16 years examining old historical records and discovered something nobody expected. He found more than 500 references spanning centuries in prayer books, legal documents, diaries, medical texts, private letters, and even inside Homer's Odyssey. All of them described the same pattern: first sleep and second sleep. Before the Industrial Revolution, humans didn't sleep in one continuous block. They usually slept soon after sunset for around 4 hours, then naturally woke up. For 1 or 2 hours, they remained awake in the middle of the night. Afterward, they returned to sleep until morning. This wasn't considered a sleep disorder. It was completely normal. Humanity followed this rhythm for thousands of years. And what happened during that period of nighttime wakefulness? A little bit of everything. A French physician from the 1500s advised couples to conceive children during that window because he believed they performed better then. People visited neighbors, reflected on dreams before forgetting them. They wrote, "They simply stayed in bed awake, thinking in the darkness." Medical advice from the 1500s even suggested people study and reflect during the watch, as they called those hours. The silent stretch between first and second sleep, when the mind felt calm and undisturbed. Historians had read these references for generations, yet they misunderstood what first sleep actually meant. They couldn't imagine that humans once slept differently. That assumption became so powerful that translators altered ancient Greek and medieval Latin texts to force them into a modern interpretation. Eventually, science proved the historical records were correct. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware from the National Institute of Mental Health performed an experiment. He removed artificial lighting entirely from volunteers' lives. For a full month, participants lived with 14 hours of darkness each night, similar to the conditions ancient humans experienced before modern lighting. After a few weeks, every participant developed the exact same pattern. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 peaceful hours awake, then another 4 hours of sleep. Nobody instructed them to follow this schedule. Nobody hinted that it should happen. Their bodies simply drifted back into it, almost as if an ancient instinct had remained hidden inside them, buried beneath centuries of electric light. Ware also measured hormone activity during that waking period and found something extraordinary. Participants entered a mental state unlike ordinary wakefulness. Their brains produced elevated prolactin levels, the same hormone connected to meditation and post-orgasm relaxation. People described feeling peaceful, thoughtful, almost dreamlike. It wasn't merely interrupted sleep. It was a completely separate state of awareness, one modern humans almost never experience anymore. So what destroyed this ancient rhythm? The explanation is surprisingly straightforward: artificial light. In the 1600s, cities began installing street lights. Paris was among the earliest, under Louis XIV, who hoped to reduce crime. London soon adopted the same idea. Night, once feared and dangerous, slowly became accessible. Then candles became cheaper. Later came gas lamps during the 1800s. And in 1879, Thomas Edison introduced the commercial light bulb. Within a single generation, humanity's ancient relationship with night disappeared. And here's the detail most people never hear about. The word curfew comes from the French phrase couvre-feu. Literally translated, it means cover the fire. In medieval towns, bells rang at night to tell people to extinguish or cover their flames, not only for safety reasons, but because nighttime was expected to remain dark. Night was meant for sleeping. Night was when humans were vulnerable. Throughout history, wandering outside after dark seemed suspicious. In many medieval European cities, walking at night without carrying a lantern was illegal. Darkness was associated with criminals and supernatural fears. People feared the night in ways modern society can barely comprehend. Then, humanity defeated the darkness. We drowned the night in artificial light, and we celebrated it as progress. But something important vanished along the way. Today, humans spend an average of 7 or 8 hours exposed to artificial light after sunset. That light, especially blue light from screens, suppresses the body's melatonin production, the hormone responsible for controlling sleep. Your brain cannot reliably tell the difference between sunlight and electric light. When bright light reaches your eyes late at night, your brain assumes daytime has returned. Melatonin release gets delayed. Sleep becomes fragmented. The circadian rhythm, shaped over millions of years, becomes disrupted. Researchers discovered that people who spend only 1 week camping without artificial lighting reset their melatonin cycles by almost 2 hours. Their bodies begin producing melatonin near sunset instead of late at night. That's how quickly ancient biological programming returns. Humanity didn't merely alter sleep patterns. We erased an entire state of consciousness. That reflective period between first and second sleep, the same peaceful state described by Weir's participants, has almost vanished from modern life. In its place, we experience insomnia, and we classify it as a medical condition. But what if it isn't really a disorder? What if waking up at 2 a.m. and lying awake in darkness isn't your body malfunctioning, but remembering what it evolved to do? For hundreds of thousands of years, humans experienced nighttime through a rhythm modern science is only beginning to fully understand. They sat beside fires, telling stories that eventually shaped civilizations. They slept in two distinct phases, separated by quiet reflection. They lived beneath darkness so complete that seeing the Milky Way required no special journey to a remote park. It was simply part of the ordinary sky. And every night, when they awoke between their first and second sleep, they rested quietly in the darkness, reflecting on their lives, their dreams, and the world awaiting them at sunrise. We traded all of that away for the convenience of electric light. And most people never realized what humanity had lost.